behalf of the Work Better Now team, I'd like to welcome everybody to Working Better Now, a series featuring a Q&A with a successful business leader. And today I'm really excited to be joined by Bernadette Capulong, CEO and founder of BC Design Haus. Bernadette, thanks so much for joining us today. Let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Yes, as mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of BC Design Haus. We are a full service creative marketing agency, and we're based out in the Los Angeles area. We are celebrating our 6-year business officially as a corporation, so I'm very proud of that. And essentially, we work with all size businesses, whether they are developing a brand or a product or service from the very start to a more established brand or enterprise level brand. So we really run the gamut across the board.
Gotcha. And tell us a little bit about your background and how you came about founding the company.
Yeah, well, I call myself the accidental entrepreneur because I didn't mean or was conscious necessarily of wanting to be a small business owner or an entrepreneur. So what happened was it was 2009 and I was contracting with my previous company and the contract dried up. But I thought, oh, well, I could just then, do more contract work or throw out my resume and try to work a full-time permanent job. Well, the market wasn't really primed for that at the moment. So I just really hustled and used social media, primarily LinkedIn, in my network of people to really try to drum up some business. So that hustling was really helpful because I ended up retaining about 20 small accounts and realized then that I had the knack for really, making something out of nothing essentially, and knowing how to network and sell my services and my product. So that happened for about 1.5 years, and I really enjoyed it and had the taste of the entrepreneurship. But then people started calling me for permanent jobs. And so I took the conservative route and decided to go back to working for someone else because the economy wasn't quite 100% recovered. But I scaled it back, and some people know, when you're trying to do both, hold a job and do entrepreneurship, it doesn't work, it just doesn't. So I went into working for a corporation again, realized that I wasn't fulfilled in my career because being a small business owner, you really make a difference in your clients' lives. You're in the weeds of their business. You are there to strategize and come up with ideas. And essentially, it's the client that makes those decisions, or a very short layer of people that make those decisions. When you work for a corporation, it's designed by committee, right? It's marketing by committee, and it becomes very frustrating as a creative person. And that's what I ended up finding was I was frustrated with the process, and I really just wanted to create and make a difference. So I stayed at that job for 3 years. I almost asked to be laid off. It was fortunate I did get laid off because I ended up then taking my severance package and rebooted BC Design Haus again. And so here we are 6 years later. So
that's a great story. And it's actually not it. Obviously, you're very unique, but that story's not unique. There's a lot of people that have taken that accidental entrepreneur route.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that some people are born to be entrepreneurs, right? They get out of college and they go straight into it. Mark Zuckerberg or whatnot is a famous example of that. I wasn't that person. I was really satisfied with the paycheck coming in every week and someone else, handling HR and revenue, right? And I just was part of, a cog in a wheel. But then, later in the career, it's like, no, it's not fulfilling me anymore. I really do want to, solve some solutions for my client. I think I get more fulfillment that way.
Right. And yet it's totally different, right? You go from being a doer or maybe a manager to now you have people who do a lot of the work, which actually leads me to my next question, which is, what is your team like?
We are a small but mighty team, and we're very tight knit. Started off as a family, essentially, because we were a small team. We were under 10 people. We started off in co-working spaces, and increased our footprint. It went from a 10 by 10 closet office where we fit 4 people in there, to a larger office in a co-working space where we fit not only people but animals as well. We built culture was a big part. It was a very, very important part of our business, because without the culture, you really don't get the trust and the camaraderie, right? So you have to start from establishing who you are as a company and what kind of culture you want to develop. Tony Hsieh from Zappos has a great saying about that. He started an earlier company before Zappos, and it crushed because he said it didn't, the culture wasn't there. And so when he started his second business, which is Zappos, he vowed that they would build on the culture first. So our team is a family, we have this family environment. We know each other really well. However, we've had a new generation of people that have come into the legacy employees. So we've got the what I call the senior class mixed in with the junior class. And so we're going through this evolution of BC Design House. And culture is still very important, but it's really changing. And then add on top of that the remote environment, right? So how do you strengthen your trust and the camaraderie of your team in a remote environment? So it's a little bit more challenging, but definitely doable.
Yeah, a lot of people who haven't gone through it, they don't realize that running a small business with 5 people is very different than running a small business with 15 and 20 people. Almost everything changes.
Oh, it absolutely does. Yeah.
To that end, what do you consider your role as CEO to be?
Andrew Cohen knows this statement very well. My role should be working on the business, not in the business. And that's the goal, to do that. And I say that because I'm still in the business. And even though we are evolving to, a next generation of BC Design House, I'm doing a lot of training with some of the new folks. I'm involved with developing our standard operating procedures, which has become essential in our growth period, because as you grow, you have to have an infrastructure, and very disciplined process, because otherwise, there's chaos, right? So my role as a CEO is the 1,000 feet above, viewpoint of the company, the visionary. I always say I'm 10 steps ahead of you. I'm already thinking, 2-3 years from now, how we're evolving, where our business is going. That's the visionary part that I will never move away from, because I think that is the role of the CEO. The role that I also like to play is the coaching and the mentoring role as well, because that's the part of, being a leader that I enjoy, is really the mentorship, really the empowering my team to develop their skills. Like, I come from a graphic design background, and I still do design. We bring junior people on board, even senior people on board. And my job is to really hone in on those skills, those core skills, and refine them and make them better. And also teach them other areas of design and branding that they have not, necessarily touched. So I am in all different areas. The areas, as a CEO, should be the one that is the overarching, but there are areas I'm still tapped into, and ones that I'm very happy to walk away from. And that just takes time and the right people to take over. So,
well, it's a journey, right? It doesn't happen overnight, and it happens a little bit at a time. Bernadette, how is your company leveraging technology?
Oh, even more so now that we're remote. We've had to mirror the organic nature that you get when you're in an office. So that's, sitting next to someone and just reaching over and saying, hey, can you take a look at this in the screen? Tell me what you think. or even the organic nature of going into the kitchen and just having social conversation with, people that are there, right? Or just grabbing coffee or whatnot. Those things we don't have the luxury of in this day and age of the remote environment. We're all in our own offices and homes, in front of our computers, Zooming all day long. Um, you know, and because culture is a high priority for us, we are constantly thinking about how we infuse those organic elements in this new digital era. And we do that through a lot of Zoom calls, but also our format in our team meetings. So for example, we have a team meeting every Monday. We make sure we start off the day positive. We give each other compliments. We have this, we call it digital prompts. People could just email them in anonymously and we read them out loud. Props to so-and-so for really hitting it home on that design last week, so on and so forth. We have a wellness Wednesday every Wednesday where it's all about wellness. We don't talk about work. We're there for an hour. We meditate. We sometimes we play games. We talk about our week. We ask icebreaker questions to get to know each other. And the technology, Zoom came at a perfect time, when we needed it. But there's also other technology that's evolved. We do GChat instead of Slack. And that's where we just kind of really, we make sure we check in on people, just texting them and asking, whatever questions and get people engaged so that they're not alone in their living rooms. There's also a virtual lunch that someone sets up a Zoom. Anyone wants to join can just show up. Things like that is where, the technology comes in.
Yeah, gotcha. Thanks for that. What has been your experience with Work Better Now and your assistants? And actually, let's start with this maybe, which is you started with one assistant, have several. Tell us about how that first one went and what led you to hire more.
It was such a successful first, out of the gate type of, the whole VA aspect was so new to me and actually very foreign when it was brought up about a couple years ago. Someone said that they were VA and I couldn't even fathom what that would look like. Right. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, we couldn't fathom a lot of things that we do now. It was like virtual assistant. No, you've got to have them right in the same office as you. There's no way. So obviously you guys were, ahead of the curve in really visualizing how business was going to grow, in a different way. And so Andrew and I have stayed in touch and at one point we were talking about marketing and he told me what business, and I just always had it in the back of my mind. It's like, oh, virtual, that's interesting. And when the opportunity came, it was actually came from one of my employees that said, you really need to get yourself an assistant because you can't keep doing these things. You're the CEO of the company. And so that prompted me to look at other virtual assistant companies, including Andrew's. And I think what really solidified it for me with Work Better Now was my relationship with Andrew. I mean, he really knew what I needed, and it was obviously we knew each other, and he, basically took care of us. And I trusted that, and we were very lucky with the first VA. I mean, they were fantastic, and it was like, wow, this really can work. And the quality, the skill set, the work ethic, it was just so, just blew me away. So that just made me think, okay, how else can we supplement our team with, virtual, whatever, you name it, fill in that blank. I think that the timing of Work Better Now is primed for today's, business climate. And I think it goes even beyond just assistance, right? I mean, there could be a whole skill set there. I'm sure you guys are already thinking about that, but
it's funny you mentioned that. We're talking, and this is kind of inside baseball, but it's okay. We're talking about renaming our assistants for more than one reason, which is, we have a lot of clients who utilize their assistant like I've used an assistant for the past 8 years, which is a personal assistant, helping with calendar and email and all of that other stuff. And then we have other assistants where they're basically like every other member of the team with a title like customer service rep or social media coordinator and things like that. So it's something that we're thinking about. It's interesting that you brought one up. So how, after your first, what's the name of, I forgot the name of the first assistant that you hired?
It was Scarlett Riquelme, who's no longer with us.
Right.
But
Oh, that's right.
she was great though. I mean, she left for personal reasons. But she was fantastic. And, you know, it really just gave us insight to, again, the technology and how it brings the world a lot closer together. It almost doesn't really matter where they are, as long as they're in the same time zone and you train them and you train them and make sure they understand your business and they've got the skills and the, you know, work ethic, you know, why not? You know,
Right.
I mean, I can sing your praises all day long because now I've got 3 on my team, right?
So
In different capacities.
Right. What was the jump from one helping you out to the second and the third?
Well, it just made me think, well, there's other opportunities here. Why couldn't we hire someone who had these skill sets and train them our business?
Right.
And so, and that was, you know, a follow-up conversation with Andrew. I'm like, you know, I'm looking for someone who understands project management skills. You know, do they really need to understand marketing? Probably not. We can train them with, as long as they have that skill, you know, the organization, the priority, the detail. I think we can train them to do other things. And so we challenged ourselves, you know, and we actually, we proved our theory. It can happen. And so now it's like, we look at these other skill sets. Well, what about this? And I think it's really, it benefits a company like us because we are a small company. We're based out in California, where unfortunately is not the most business friendly state. Everybody knows that if you're in business in California. There's such regulations here. And for a small business, we don't have the financial bandwidth, the deep pockets like another mid-sized company to hire all these people. And we can't even hire in our own state because the requirements for, you know, a salary is just doesn't make any sense for our budget. So in order for us to be able to meet our business goals, which we're trying to scale, we then have to look for alternative solutions. And this is an opportunity here. I mean, we were already tapping into other resources around the globe for, like, let's say, development programming, which has been the case, right? Tapping into, you know, India for programming skills. A lot of people do that, but now we're opening up to these other skills that we didn't necessarily think about.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. Bernadette, what do you, when you're not working, what do you like to do?
I have a son. He keeps me definitely on my toes. He's 10 years old. And the other beauty of owning your own company is that technically you can leave when you should leave, which is 5 o'clock, because that becomes mom time then. You know, my other job is being a mother and picking up my son and spending the time in the evening, you know, with each other, you know, before it's time for bed again. And then the weekends. I love the outdoors. You know, I do a lot of running. So he comes with me, rides his bike as I go running. And you know, and just also the other things like, you know, going out for friends and being social and hosting dinner at my house. I love live concerts. I'm going to one this weekend. I'm just so happy that life is becoming more normal, like, you know, events, outdoor events and concerts and whatnot. So.
Well, what's your favorite venue in LA?
You know, I do love the Hollywood Bowl. I love the whole experience of it. It's outdoors, number one. You get to picnic. It's beautiful and tranquil. You know,
Not a
and you
bad
have a
seat.
great concert. What's that?
Not a bad seat in the house there.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Bernadette, where can people find out more about you and BC Design House?
Yeah, definitely. Come visit us at our website, which is BC Design House. So it's BC Design House is spelled HAUS.com. You can drop me an email at hello@bcdesignhouse.com. Or just, we also have a newsletter and a podcast as well. So check out our podcast called The Haus Report on Spotify or Apple Podcast.
It's HAU, right?
HAUS.
Right.
Yes, The Haus Report. And we talk a lot about design and branding, entrepreneurship, and leadership in our podcast. So definitely check that out and let us know what you think.
Fantastic. Bernadette, thanks so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to speak with not only myself, but the Work Better Now community. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed the discussion.
Absolutely. And thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thanks, Bernadette.